everybody, welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, the Dementia Road, where I know I've been MIA for a few weeks, and I know I keep saying that, at least for the last 3 videos. But you know, it's dementia, so we should be used to repetitiveness, right? If you get something out of this channel, please like, subscribe, and share. It is appreciated and it helps the channel out. Just a couple things in my absence. My mother ended up getting COVID, and much to my surprise, for sure, she came through it with flying colors. I did run back and forth, and you know, you got to keep a little extra eye on them, but given her medical history, she usually does not do well with anything that gets into your lungs, and she had no problems, didn't take anything. They gave her a little Robitussin G decongestant, and she's fine. So for today's vlog, I thought that what I would take a look at is some of the things that I have found difficult, some of the, I guess maybe the most difficult things I have found caretaking dementia to be. Now that's going to vary from person to person, situation to situation, because the disease does not act the same in every single person. Everybody's situation is different. If you have a loved one living with you, you are going to have a far longer, more detailed list than I am. As most of you know, if you've watched this channel, we never had our parents live with us. They just physically couldn't live with us due to our house. And we knew it was more than what we could handle. So we had to deal with a lot of things in getting them into assisted living. And I think the first thing I'm going to say about the hardest part about being a caretaker is honestly having a front row to the disease all the time. You see things every day. You see their forgetfulness. You see their struggle. You see their decline. And, you know, other family members don't see it. They don't. Maybe they don't live nearby, or they just simply aren't there almost every day. And that's really, it's a really hard thing to do, to watch your loved one have their identity stolen and have an entire life stolen. Like everything they've ever done, they don't remember. And it will get to where they really don't remember anything. And that's hard to watch. That's really hard to watch. And what goes with that is the fact that your other family members either live partly in denial because they don't see it. She's fine. I just talked to her on the phone. Yeah, where you had the same conversation you've had every time you've talked to her on the phone. Or they're in this semi-denial. And we went through a situation, you know, we had to sell 2 houses, and we went through a situation where we had to make all the decisions, and that's part of the hard thing when you're caretaking. You are the decision maker. Someone's got to be, and it's going to be you. And you go around with your family who, like I just said, they're not there all the time. They don't see everything, and it's all yours. And then when you make a decision, everybody wants to rag on you. We've been down that road more than once. And one of the things we had to deal with, we had to sell both houses, and someone said to us, this was concerning my in-laws, well, have you asked them if they want to sell their house? Are you kidding me? My father-in-law had lost the ability to speak. He had that dysphagia, I think they call it, whatever. He literally couldn't speak. They don't have the reasoning ability. They don't understand they have the disease, and you want me to ask them if they want to sell their house. What? That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Or they think you should be far more involved and up there every single day of your life while they're not anywhere to be found. That stuff it's pretty frustrating because you're already dealing with something daily. Even when they're in assisted living, yes, it's not every second of your life, but you still have a lot to do. Someone's got to go visit them. Someone's got to make sure they've got clothes or snacks or their hair's cut or they're doing okay. And when they get sick or they go to the hospital, guess what? You're it. And that's another thing that brings me to another thing. It's interruptions. It's constant and it gets really hard. We were doing something one day. My husband and I were literally dab smack in the middle of something, like it was like a construction thing, and it took two of us, and we got a phone call from the assisted living facility where his mom was, and they said apparently she had gone to use a paper towel dispenser. This was the first facility she was in that they didn't stay long in, but she went to use a paper towel dispenser and the thing flipped open and hit her on the head. She got an ambulance ride to the hospital. Because anytime there's anything concerning a head injury, including a bump, to the hospital they go. Guess who has to go to the hospital? You do. Right in the middle of your stuff, whatever you're doing. We've done a lot of things where we've just had a really hard time scheduling stuff because you just don't know. That's really frustrating. And I think some of the frustration that I had, even though my mom lived really close by, was I had to go back and forth to her house constantly. There was always a problem. She always had something wrong as the disease progressed. And we were waiting to get into assisted living, and then COVID came and it just made things worse. So I was constantly running back and forth. I would get home, sit down, and she would call. And the thing was, you couldn't always ignore things, because if she didn't think her phone was working, or she didn't think her furnace was working, or she didn't think her air conditioner was working, she would literally go out and start to rip stuff apart. And no. So it was really difficult. That was just constant. And it gets tiring, you know they can't help it, but it so tires you out. Decision making, constantly trying to figure out what's best for them, and shuffling through paperwork and finding their paperwork that you need to apply for assisted living, if you need it for Medicare or Medicaid or whatever you're dealing with. That stuff exhausts you. And then I went through this with my mom where I had the stuff and I knew what I needed, and I was looking for one particular piece of paper and she didn't know where it was, and that's how it goes. But she was just constantly, everything I had in a pile that was to go, she would constantly pick it up and shuffle through it and shuffle through it and shuffle through it, like to the point where I finally had to take it out to my car to stop her from doing that. But you are going to make all the phone calls. It's going to take your vacation time you're going to end up doing stuff with if you work. Nobody else is going to go through that. They're just going to sit on the sidelines, and a lot of them are going to tell you how you're going to do it, and that's not a lot of fun either. And we've had some great siblings, and we've had some issues for sure. As the disease goes on, one of the other things I found frustrating was, I don't know if I want to say arguing, but you're trying not to argue because they're absolutely dead wrong. And some things you could just let go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when Susie Q's birthday was and they got that wrong. Who cares? But there are things, like I said to you, my mom wants to rip her phone apart. And you're going, no, there's nothing wrong. And you're trying to get them to understand something that they cannot understand. And you repeat yourself over and over and over. And I try different ways of explaining things, try to show it like physically, like here's the phone, push this button, and they don't get it. And it's not their fault. Totally, everybody says that, well, it's not their fault. No kidding. But when you're the one in your right mind and you're just trying, you just want to go home. You just want to go to sleep. You just want 5 minutes to yourself. It's really hard. It's just, I'm just being honest. It's hard. People don't want to talk about that stuff. And people don't realize it. And I think one of the things I hated was when people are like, well, you know, they don't understand that. I'm well aware that they don't understand it, but it doesn't make life any easier on the caregiver, especially when you're pretty much the only caregiver, because you really need a tag team, especially when they're at home or you're living with them. You've got to have more than you, because you're going to lose it. And I hate to say that, but it's true. And yeah, they can't help it, and we all know that. Still doesn't make it any easier. I think another one of the hardest things is that we deal with a lot of guilt. You just don't know what the right answer is. It's an unpredictable disease. And did I do the right thing? Did I do it too early? Did I do it too late? Oh crap, I should have done this sooner. Which was a lot of what I dealt with. Was I probably should have done this a little sooner. And the thing is, you really don't want to move them before they really need to move, and I didn't want to do that. But then COVID came, and it was a little, it was a little hairy for a couple of weeks. Thankfully, it really did all work out, but you're going to make a lot of decisions, and even the days where you just get frustrated and you want to just lose it, or maybe you do. And there are days and times when you just get so frustrated with them and either their behavior or they're arguing with you that you kind of lose it. And then you feel guilty because it really isn't their fault. They don't want the disease any more than you want them to have it. It's just really, really a hard thing. And there's a lot of other things I could add on, I'm sure. Maybe there'll be a part 2. I don't know, but just curious. You can leave it in the comments below. What have you found to be the most difficult part of being a dementia caretaker? And until the next time, have a great day.